Hello my beautiful darlings, and welcome to another episode of George Reviews. And in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Batman. Because you know what? There's a shortage of videos talking about the Batman. So you know what? I want to do this little film a solid. I want to do it a favor. I want to give it a nice, solid, meaty review. Of course, who hasn't already talked about this film in great length? Why should I even spend my time talking about the Batman? But you know what? I'm going to do it anyway, and this video is going to be spoiler light. I want to keep it as spoiler light as possible. I want to get into some details about the film, so you have been warned. The Batman, of course, is the newest iteration of the Caped Crusader, this time with Robert Pattinson donning the cowl and Matt Reeves directing. And now I've been following this project since its development when Ben Affleck was attached until he was booted out or quit or whatever happened with that. I genuinely love most Batman films for unironic and ironic reasons. So I was pretty hyped for this, even though I'm not much of a fan or follower of Matt Reeves' career. I was pretty lukewarm on both Cloverfield and Let Me In, and haven't really seen any of his Apes films, so that was my main reservation going into this. So with that reservation in mind, I can say that I liked the film, I liked the Batman, but definitely have my issues with it. Mainly the direction of the film, where I felt it was just borderlining on going all over the place, but it was just grounded enough to where I got a lot of enjoyment and satisfaction out of the film. But before that, let's get into the plot. We start with Batman now 2 years into his role protecting Gotham City, and people are unpleased with his vigilante presence, and this is something I really appreciate about the film, and Batman and Gordon acting almost as partners, and that was my favorite character dynamic within the Batman. With the presence of a new menace to the city known only as the Riddler, who is taunting Batman with riddles and clues to his crimes, he must go under the criminal underbelly, encountering many mysterious characters such as Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, and the Penguin, played brilliantly, just superbly by Colin Ferrell. Now, as I said about the tone, which is probably my favorite aspect of the Batman, it is oozing in murkiness and bleakness. A lot of comparisons are being made about this and the David Fincher film Seven, and I will agree the film definitely gives off a similar vibe, but I would dare say it stands on its own, and I was absolutely captivated in its dark and gritty aesthetic. I also enjoyed most of the performances, with the standouts being Robert Pattinson and Ferrell, Zoe Kravitz, and Paul Dano. I love the direction Pattinson took the character of Batman/Bruce Wayne into this brooding, stoic, detached psychopath, showing very little empathy. It really conveys this as a Batman who doesn't quite have it all together, and that was very interesting to see cinematically. Paul Dano was pretty menacing and horrifying for the most part when he is in the Riddler character, but without the mask and persona, he was just Paul Dano. Pretty much in the same vein as he was in the film Prisoners, which I would highly recommend. Not to say he was bad, he just showed me something different and unique, more so than what I'm used to seeing him as when he was donning the mask and the persona of the Riddler. But without the mask, he's just Paul Dano, as I said. And that's pretty much what I liked about the film. As for the rest, I thought it was riding a line between a gritty detective story and a big blockbuster spectacle, which is to be expected from a Batman film, but I would say even the Nolan films were at least grounded in the universe they were creating, and I liked the detective noir elements, and when it was grounded in that, it was really solid for me. But there are a few moments where I had to hold my suspension of disbelief so much and feel the film could have been better without it. There are two instances I want to go over. The first being the fake out explosion with Alfred, which leads to a taxing, very staggering scene in the hospital between Bruce and Alfred, and I would have found it more effective if Alfred, died in the explosion. That definitely would have given more levity for me, because if you're going to blow up Alfred, you might as well go all the fucking way. I'm sure they're planning to keep him around for future sequels in this universe and this timeline of Matt Reeves' Batman, but I feel it was ultimately pointless to the story to have him just survive. Also, I found the Riddler's ultimate plan, while interesting on paper, very outlandish for how they set him up as a villain. He seemed way more organized than a domestic terrorist, which I thought was the vibe they were going for. In the beginning half of the film, when they were setting him up, he was more mysterious, he had the mask, he was more menacing, he was more mysterious. bit, I would say. And with that, it wasn't enough to completely ruin the experience for me, but it did take me out of the film a little bit, if I'm being perfectly honest. And there's another element that I felt could have been removed entirely, that of the John Turturro character subplot with Selena Kyle. And look, I enjoy her character immensely, you know, for the most part, but the whole father revenge plot feels pretty tiresome at this point, and it was just something I really feel the film could have done without, with the already staggering 3-hour runtime. And don't get me wrong, I can enjoy a good 3-hour movie. I love long films. I love the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I love The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Those are long films, but this was just pushing it for me just a little bit. It was just on the edge of annoyance of how long the runtime was. This shows a lack of self-editing and overindulgence of one's creative visual work. There are plenty of elements you could cut out, as I just listed. I think there's a masterpiece of a film hidden in here, and I would rather have the Joker interrogation scene that was cut, that was recently released, than some of the scenes and subplots that just dragged on for me in this film. Also, the film is held back from being more brutal and savage, I would say, with the PG-13 rating. As Batman is punching the shit out of a criminal, there's no blood drizzling on his face or fists for the damage those punches seem to be doing. I would have liked just a little more brutality, but alas, this is a PG-13 Batman film. Options are limited. All in all, I really like the Batman. I can see myself watching again on 4K Blu-ray or HBO Max, and there are definitely a lot of standout scenes and sequences, and I enjoyed the brooding detective noir angle, but it was still a Batman movie and had to appeal to the blockbuster spectacle crowd, which is fine. And I enjoyed some of those scenes, I'm not going to lie. I mean, the car chase between Batman and the Penguin was fucking amazing, and that was still a little more grounded than some of the other scenes that were more, you know, targeted towards a spectacle demographic. It was just a mix of those tones that didn't always work well, and I found it a little underwhelming at times, and it was really hard for me to get into it, but ultimately I enjoyed it. I'm going to rate the Batman 3.5 stars. I would definitely recommend it. I just think there's some things that are holding it back from being perfect. Those are my rambling thoughts on the Batman. Now, did you see the Batman? Of course you did. Everyone's fucking seen it. What did you think about it? What are some of your thoughts, your criticisms, or praises? Let me know down there in the comments, and please like and subscribe if you'd be so kind. My name is George Ray. I want to thank you so much for tuning into this video and this review. Please remember to keep calm, keep cool, keep chill, embrace great cinema. I'll see you on the next video. Until then, peace out.